Because what happened was that one Tuesday morning, everyone got up and they went about their business as they normally would, and all the banks were closed. And so they pulled out their credit card, and the credit cards weren't working. A haircut is where the government comes and they look at what's in your bank account and they take your money.
This is the Active Church. To God be the glory.
Before the 2008 financial crisis, Cyprus appeared to be in good shape. A long period of growth kept unemployment rates low and public finances sound. Even the island's 2009 recession was the mildest in the Eurozone. But Cyprus had been gradually exposing its economy to more and more risk, notably in the form of rapid credit growth, which in turn fueled a housing boom, close financial ties with Athens, and lending money to Greece. Cyprus's financial sector was particularly vulnerable due to its large banking system. Total bank assets were the equivalent to 835% of GDP in 2011. This led to mounting debt and finally a formal request for Europe's help. In return for a €10 billion bailout deal with the Eurozone, the Cypriot government has now agreed to a major downsizing of the sector. Laiki Popular Bank, the country's second largest, will be wound down, with healthy assets eventually merging into the Bank of Cyprus. The Bank of Cyprus itself will endure a major haircut on deposits of more than €100,000. This comes as a huge blow to major investors, many of whom are Russian. Analysts say Cypriots, meanwhile, could face years of economic hardship.
Imagine people standing in queues all over the world for hours and hours, hoping to draw some cash out of the bank. Imagine if the rich, even though they have millions, can only get enough to cover food for 3 days. Imagine the poor, if even the little they have is now gone. Imagine education being a thing of the past. Survival is now the only thing that matters. Fear grips your soul. Desperation. Fear, desperation. Then a Saviour comes in the form of a man who promises food, health, vaccinations, life. If you get a microchip, his seal, his guarantee. Relief begins to fill you. Relief. Or is it? Imagine if the earth had just a little time left. What would become the most important thing to you? Family? They're gone. Money? It's all gone.
You know, a little while ago, there was a group of people who called themselves Christians who said that the world was going to end. I think it was going to end in about October the year before last. And so all of these people came and they gathered in this one place and they waited there because at a certain time the world was going to end. And then the world didn't end. It was supposed to end at 6 o'clock in the evening, New York time, and it didn't end at 6 o'clock in the evening, New York time. And I remember thereafter there were a lot of discussions that went on when these people had said these things, and then what they'd said would happen didn't happen. And people started saying, you know what, it's irresponsible to talk about the rapture. It's irresponsible to talk about the end of the world. It's irresponsible to talk about Armageddon and all the things that the Bible talks about. It's never going to happen. But I want to tell you, for centuries, Christians have spoken about the mark of the beast because it's in the book of Revelation. And there you heard that passage there that was read on that little video clip that we did there. Now, what I want you to understand is that while Christians have been talking about the mark of the beast, in every single generation, in every single age group, there have been people that have said it will never happen. It will never ever happen. And in fact, when Christians argue against things that are taking place today, where government is putting all sorts of laws in place, and it's not just our government, it's like it's happening all over the world, and they put all sorts of laws in place, putting legislation where they put excessive power in the hands of the government. then people call them lunatics and right-wing extremists and dangerous to peace and security and all sorts of stuff. But I want you to think about something, and that is the fact that the Bible talks about the Antichrist, and it has this to say about the mark of the beast. It was read earlier in the video clip, but I just want to take these 3 verses. It says this. In Revelation 13, verse 16 to 18, it says, He required everyone, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to be given the mark on the right hand or on the forehead. And no one could buy or sell anything without the mark, which was either the name of the beast or the number representing his name. Wisdom is needed here. Let the one with understanding solve the meaning of the number of the beast. It is the number of a man. His number is 666. Skeptics have always come up and they've looked at this verse and they've looked at claims like this that the Bible makes with great skepticism and sarcasm. And they've said things like, oh, this is preposterous, please. The idea that one man would control the world and stop people buying things is ridiculous. And I want to tell you, I spent a number of years in the IT industry, specifically in the banking industry, and I therefore, as an ex-IT expert, I'm no longer an expert, I'm an ex-IT expert, you understand? But I, as an ex-IT expert, know for a fact that it is very, very possible. And in fact, if you don't believe it's possible, then you haven't been listening to the news in terms of what happened to Cyprus. Now, I know quite a bit about what happened to Cyprus because Vicky's father's family comes from Cyprus, and many of them have gone through this thing. And in terms of one thing that I understood when one of her cousins sent her an email telling her what went on there, is that we haven't even got a clue about how bad it actually was in that country. And now even rich people, everyone just came crashing down just like this. Because what happened was that one Tuesday morning, everyone got up and they went about their business as they normally would, and all the banks were closed. And so they pulled out their credit card and the credit cards weren't working. And then a statement came out, listen, you can go and withdraw cash from the ATM, but you can only get 100 euro. Okay, now 100 euros is a lot of money in South Africa. It's about R1 million, you know what I'm saying, okay? All right? Not quite, but I mean, it's a lot of money. So we think, 100 euros, no problem. But 100 euros is not a lot of money in Cyprus. And so you had people standing in queues, and you saw some of the photos on the video clip there, people standing in queues to try and get the money out of the bank. And so we witnessed the news which spoke about the fact that, and we showed that video clip at the beginning of that video, that the investors in Cyprus had to take a haircut. Nice fancy word, they had to take a haircut. And no, it didn't mean all the people in Cyprus had to go to the barber or the hairdresser to get their haircut. You understand what I'm saying? What they're talking about, they had to take a haircut, it means that they said, right, the banks in Cyprus are bankrupt, they're not going to make it, they can't pay their depositors and all this kind of stuff. And what they said was that we're going to take money out of the accounts, not out of the interest, but out of the accounts of people who've got money in those banks. And now they're saying, don't worry, most of them are Russians and they're all criminals anyway. And the fact of the matter is, every single Cypriot there has been affected by that. And in fact, people in South Africa have been affected by that. In fact, there are concerns I read this week in Washington because there are quite a few Americans who have been affected by this. People who put their money there because it was a safe haven. And so at the end of the day, this is a situation. A haircut is where the government comes and they look at what's in your bank account and they take your money. They take your money. Tell the person next to you, how? They take my money. All right? That's what a haircut is. So it sounds all nice on the news bulletin. You know what I mean? It's a haircut. But what they're saying is there's X percentage of the bank balance that you've got in your account. Now just imagine if you've been saving money over a period of time and you've got a bank balance. All right? There's not too many of us that do that. We spend all of our money. You understand what I'm saying? But for those of us who save, now we saved our money and next thing the government says, sorry, we need to take 30% of your money. Whoop, and it's gone. That's exactly what's happening there. And, you know, when you think about it, the promise that was made all the years when I was growing up and in my adult life, put your money in the bank, it's a safe haven for money. And I now look at this and I say, you're right. You're right. And after using many technical economic terms, the reality in Nicosia, which is in Cyprus, is that people could not access their cash, credit cards were no longer accepted, and everything came to a standstill. Everything stopped. And they said that Cyprus needed a bailout from the European Union, and they got 10 billion. But in getting that 10 billion euro, the Cypriot government had to sign away some of their sovereignty. In other words, the Cypriot government now, to a far greater degree than what happened before, is now answerable to the European Union. And so what I also want you to realize, if you go and you look at countries like Cyprus and Portugal and even Italy and Spain, prior to the euro being introduced on the 1st of January, the year 2000, the promise was that, you know, if everyone comes together and we put all of our currencies together, we're going to have a greater European power, we'll have a single currency, and it's going to bring wealth and security to everyone in Europe. And that's the promise that was made. But if you know people that live in Portugal, or you know people that live in Spain, or you know people that live in Italy, or you even now know people who live in Cyprus, that's exactly the opposite to what happened. Okay, what happened was that all of a sudden, everything which had been cheap in those countries, because those countries had an advantage where they were relatively cheaper compared to the Britons and the Frances and the Germanys, now all of a sudden, they became incredibly expensive too. And the people there who'd been middle-class citizens all of a sudden started dropping down the ladder. And if you speak to anyone, I mean, a lot of people left South Africa in 1994 to go to Portugal, and they came back for exactly this reason. Now, the reality is that after the euro was introduced, one country after another has gone bankrupt, and they've given different reasons as to why they need bailouts. And in return, every time that country has accepted money, they've given up some of their sovereignty, and they've actually, in some instances, changed who rules the country, because the European Union has insisted on it. So some people say, look, you can't trust the banks, so put your money in gold. Well, go, put your money in gold, it's a safe haven, and I mean, it's a good thing to buy gold. You know, if you can buy gold, buy gold. Let me tell you, it's not a bad thing. However, there's only one problem. And the problem is, and I just want you to bring it up on the screen, please. On that thing there, that was an executive order that was done by President Roosevelt in 1933, and it says, under executive order of the President, all persons shall deliver on or before May 31, 1933, all gold bullion, gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates now owned by them to the Federal Reserve Bank, branch or agency, or to any member of the bank of the Federal Reserve System. They said, if you've got gold, you're going to come and you're going to give it to the Federal Reserve. In other words, you're going to give it to the government. And the president, without it even going through American Congress, because it's supposed to be a democracy, he signed this order and everyone lost their gold. And all gold in the United States was confiscated except that the government couldn't find and didn't know about. In the United States, that law is still in place today. It hasn't been rescinded. If the US government decides at any time that they want to confiscate the gold, they have the legal mechanisms to do it right now. And so legally nothing stops them from doing this. So I did some research, and apparently this could easily happen in South Africa too. In fact, some say, and there's some guys that say that this would probably happen with sudden legislation, and it would be enacted over a long weekend on a public holiday, or something like that. And so the reality is, yeah, gold's a safe haven as long as the government doesn't decide to confiscate it.
Well, why don't you incorporate new things in your dance?
It's not that simple. They have rules.
Why don't you break the world's rules?
Welcome everyone to an espresso dance company, aka EDC. My aim is to make you a professional. Let me demonstrate.
Breaking news. The mobsters who have caused quite a disturbance around the city of Durban have been caught by the local police.
For you, how great you are, God. shine, and all heaven stretched out for you, golden path leading to your throne. Blameless in your presence we stand, when all tears and pain are known. Your love and grace is inexplicable. Everything you do is indescribable. My heart is filled with such gratitude. I wanna thank you, I wanna thank you. Your love and grace is inexplicable. Everything you do is indescribable. My heart is filled with such gratitude. I wanna thank you, I wanna thank you. You made all earth overflows with your wonderful creation. Your spirit awakens my soul, my heart welcomes your invasion. Just like Jesus gave thanks at the Last Supper, we thank you. We remember and bask in your royal favor. Inexplicable. Everything you do is indescribable. My heart is filled with such gratitude. I wanna thank you, I wanna thank you. Your love and grace is inexplicable. Everything you do is indescribable. My heart is filled with such gratitude. I wanna thank you, I wanna thank you. 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 I wanna thank you, 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 I wanna thank you. Your love and grace is inexplicable. Everything you do is indescribable. My heart is filled with such gratitude. I wanna